Harbor Shellfish Advisory Board. This is August 18th, 2020. I have a lengthy script I need to read out loud to everybody. This is a script for remotely conducted open meetings, confirming member access as a preliminary matter. This is Harbor and Shellfish Advisory Board. I'm the chairman, Andy Lowell, to confirm that all members and persons anticipated on the agenda are present and can hear me. Members, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. I see Dave Franzuto, yes.
Aye.
Dave Bossy, yes.
Yes.
Peter Brace.
Yes.
All right. Staff, do we have any staff with us today, Peter?
We do not.
Okay. As I mentioned earlier, Sheila called at about 2:30 this afternoon and said she's had to relieve a crew that's on a search and rescue. She began her shift at 4 o'clock with that, so she will not be joining us tonight. I'm sorry to mention, but I think we can still get. I want to welcome all the liveaboards here, and hopefully we get some good information on how you feel about things that are happening, and we'll share that with you. Anticipated speakers on the agenda, please respond in the affirmative. Peter, if you could please announce the name.
So what shows up on the screen for the liveaboards that are showing up are CJ, SCHM, and then I see ELKE.
Okay, one at a time, because they need to confirm themselves and their name as present.
Okay, so CJ, SCHM.
CJ, you there?
Present.
All right, your full name, please. CJ?
Here.
Your name, please.
No audio.
Oh,
DJ Schmuck.
okay. You got that, Peter?
Yeah.
Thanks.
And then ELKE.
El Katapa.
Thank you. You got her name, Peter?
Yes.
All right, Peter, if you log all that, that's wonderful. Thank you.
And then Bill Fredericks.
Yep, I'm here.
Hi, Bill. Do you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Right.
Mr. Chairman, Tom Sidlowski, you didn't call my
Tom.
name, but I'm here.
Tom, we'll back up to board member Tom Sidlowski here. Sorry about that, Tom.
No problem.
Did I get Mr. Bossy also?
You did.
Okay. Anybody else from the public, Mr. Brace?
Not yet, but as they come in, I'll see them
Okay.
requesting admittance, and I'll click the button, and we'll get their names when they come on.
Okay, introduction to the remote meeting. Good afternoon. This open meeting of the Harbor and Shellfish Advisory Board is being conducted remotely, consistent with Governor Baker's executive order of March 12th, 2020, due to the current state of emergency in the Commonwealth due to the outbreak of the COVID-19 virus. In order to mitigate the transmission of the COVID-19 virus, we have been advised and directed by the Commonwealth to suspend public gatherings, and as such, the governor's order suspends the requirements of the open meeting law to have all meetings in a publicly accessible physical location. Further, all members of public bodies are allowed and encouraged to participate remotely. The order, which you can find posted with agenda materials for this meeting, allows public bodies to meet entirely remotely so long as reasonable public access is afforded so that the public can follow along with the deliberations of the meeting. Ensuring public access does not ensure public participation unless such participation is required by law. This meeting will feature public comment. For this meeting, Harbor and Shellfish Advisory Board is convening by video conference via Zoom app as posted on the town's website, identifying how the public may join. For Zoom meetings, please note that this meeting is being recorded and that all attendees are participating by video conference. Accordingly, please be aware that other folks may be able to see you and to take care not to screen share your computer. Anything that you broadcast may be captured by the recording. Meeting materials. All supporting materials that have been provided members of this body are available at the town's website unless otherwise noted. The public is encouraged to follow along using the posted agenda unless I note otherwise. Meeting business ground rules. We are now turning to the first item on the agenda. Before we do so, permit me to cover some ground rules for the effective and clear conduct of our business and to ensure accurate meeting minutes. I will introduce each speaker on the agenda. After they conclude their remarks, the chair will go down the line of members, inviting each by name to provide any comment, questions, or motions. Please hold until your name is called. Further, please remember to mute your phone or computer when you are not speaking. Please remember to speak clearly and in a way that helps generate accurate minutes. For any response, please wait until the chair yields the floor to you and state your name before speaking. If members wish to engage in a conversation with other members, please do so through the chair, taking care to identify yourself. For items with public comment, after members have spoken, the chair will afford public comment to those members of the public that have joined the meeting via Zoom. Members of the public who wish to speak must state their names and be acknowledged by and speak through the chair. Finally, each vote taken in this meeting will be conducted by a roll call vote. This is a workshop meeting. We will not be taking any votes tonight. Is that correct, Mr. Brace?
Yes.
Okay, thank you for that. The matter of our meeting tonight is liveaboards. Solely speaking about liveaboards, the regulations. We've brought this to our own attention, namely because of a boat that was attempted to be scuttled last fall, November 13th, I believe. A disabled liveaboard boat was taken out of the harbor and ended up being beached in the Carter Bay. It ended up breaking up and creating a debris field a couple of miles long, and was quite an effort to recover from the condition and the position that it was in. I think some of our issues are boats that are being used by liveaboards that cannot be moved under their own power. Sheila also has an issue with boats being used as Airbnbs, therefore having occupants on the boat that are unable to maneuver or move the boat if ordered to do so by the harbor master for whatever reason may be, whether it's a dragging mooring or a pending storm. So we'd like to know the current liveaboards that are with us tonight. I thank you all for being here. How you feel, if there are any activities you notice that could be enforced better. This is going to be the time to do it. Voice your opinions. We're going to take time to digest things. Hopefully Sheila can make it to our next meeting and we can work out some adjustments to regulations to keep certain catastrophes from happening. We want you all to be safe out there. We want you to be comfortable, but we also want you to be living, let's say, a prudent lifestyle for the sake of the environment. So if are there any board members, first of all, who would like to add to what I have just stated? Mr. Sidlowski, anything?
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Franzuto?
Yeah, I just want everybody to know that we're, as I said in my email to you, my goal in this is to make sure that you in no way, shape, or form lose the rights to be able to live aboard.
Excellent. Thank you.
Now it's one of those things that we've been doing around here for, 35 years that I know of. And it's very important. And it gives you some flexibility and the ability to either, if you have a house restored, or to rent the house, or be flexible, or just enjoy that lifestyle. And I don't want that to be lost. And I have a feeling that if we don't get a handle on this a little bit more formally, then there could be a move to do away with this. And it's been done away with in other harbors, and I don't think that that's correct. But anyway, that's just my thought on it. I want you guys to be able to be out there and be safe, and not lose this opportunity.
Well, I would reiterate that, Mr. Franzuto, that, we're certainly not here to take away any privilege, but we do feel that some regulations could be adjusted, to keep especially the abandonment thing from happening. And I'd like to ask the liveaboards who have joined us tonight if they're familiar with the incident of the abandoned boat last November.
I wasn't in town, but I heard about it, and
Okay.
it didn't surprise me.
And how do you feel about a regulation stating that a boat that is a liveaboard boat must be able to maneuver and be moved under its own power? Right now,
Well-
you can have your boat moved by Towboat USA or another certified tow company that's on file with you. So I'm told, so that if you have an immobile boat, it's still considered mobile if you have a tow company on file. And this is something that I feel could be tightened up to being able to be moved under your own power.
I mean, it's great. It's great that everybody should have, the ability that the boat can move under their own power. But reality of the situation is a lot of folks have boats that, either temporary or long term, they are immobile. But that doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to let it go up on the beach.
No, it doesn't. No.
It's like a Floppy's houseboat, and there's nobody living aboard it, but it's never had motors in it. But he's the local salvage guy, so he can move, he can tow it around, no problem. It's never going to be an issue, and there's no petrochemicals aboard or anything like that. And he's the main diver out here. To say to him, you can't use this boat you've been living, using as a liveaboard for 20 years as a liveaboard just because it doesn't have an engine. I don't really like that.
Okay, and that's understandable. So if this adjustment seems redundant, I want to know that, and we'll move in another direction somehow. Really, what Mr. Franzuto mentioned since the Miss China incident, that it was really backed up some to where no liveaboard boat can be brought over to the island under tow.
I like that idea.
Okay, so this is what we're here for, to try to hammer this out and get it right, because this boat, when it did arrive here a year ago, May, or a little earlier than that, it was on its way over here under its own power, and it made it as far as the vineyard, and then ended up being towed in to our harbor. And really how we how we enforce that when it's happening, how we keep an eye on everything that's being towed into our harbor. I'd like to think, you know, with the camera coverage that's out there today, we can figure this out. But as we were told when last year's disaster got towed out of the harbor, no footage is being recorded from the camera at Brant Point Lighthouse. So
But, you
that
know,
may be something we
that
need.
wouldn't have prevented Christian's boat from going up on the beach, even if he could have driven it. You know, the thing was such a wreck. Even if he'd had a means to drive the boat under its own power, he would have just driven it out there and scuttled it.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
So the whole having to have your own means of propulsion is, I mean, it's a good idea, but it doesn't really address the problem. You know?
Mr. Franzuto.
Yeah, I think that a more, and to the point about the boat being taken out and put up on the beach, it's more of a responsible owner question. It's more of who's in charge of that boat. And we all know that when boats start to have problems like that, they change hands about 4 times an hour, and then nobody's responsible. And I think it's more of a more important than the maneuverability or the ability to move under its own power of a tightening of ownership and who's responsible. And
Absolutely,
I think that Dave,
Yeah.
I think that Dave Bossy application form does a good job that he's come up with. That does a good job of trying to nail down who's responsible. You know, and I think that's more. I think that's more of the issue. But you know, in the case of the boat that I think Mr. Frederick you were talking about is the boat that Floppy has.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, and he used it as
That boat's been here for a long time.
Yeah.
And then the other issue before I shut up for a minute is the subletting or renting of these boats, because there again you get into the situation of who's responsible, and obviously the owner's ultimately responsible, but the owner may be somewhere else, and when the wind's going to blow, then it falls on the Airbnb, and I don't like that term because I don't. Anyway, the subletting person may only be living there and may not have a clue on what he's going to do when the wind blows 60. So I think those are the issues. I'll be quiet.
Mr. Sidlowski, please.
So it sounds like it doesn't matter that the boat can be self-propelled, but if the regulation were written that the boats had to be registered somehow through an agreement or something, and it said that the person who registered the boat is ultimately responsible for the boat and anything that happens with the boat, that requires somebody to re-register it if they sell it. I mean, we could have a regulation that you selling it doesn't get you off the hook unless you get the new buyer to register it as the buyer, as the owner. Because once you sign this agreement or anything like it, then you're responsible for the boat. And then this problem is this guy said he didn't really own it anymore. Well, you own it and you are responsible till you get someone else to sign up for it. And that's the cost of being, a liveaboard in Nantucket. Does that make any sense? No, I see a no. Why is that?
Who's saying no?
CJ.
Oh. Well, Mr. Brace, I see with his hand up, please.
Yeah, I want to reiterate what Dave said. It comes back to the individual. I mean, in a perfect world, all the boats out there are under their own power. They can move, they can come and go. If they can't get pumped out, they could drive into the town pier and get pumped out. But, as we're hearing that not all the boats are under their own power. But what Dave seems to be saying is it comes down to the individual who is on the boat and how responsible they are and how much they care about the harbor and their place in the community of liveaboards and the people that are in the harbor at the time. And so if you don't have sketchy people who just don't care and are just going to let things go, and we all know the people in the community of liveaboards who are going to be responsible. And I'm looking at 3 of them right now, and I know there are others, but I'm sure there are people out there that don't give a shit. Sorry. And I like what Dave Bossy put together. I just think that we as a board, and even though we're an advisory board, and namely Sheila, you need a way to track the people who own the boat. And the owner of the boat needs to be on there. The person who's responsible for it needs to be on that form, and it needs to be something that's done every year so that every year Sheila has a list. These are all the liveaboard people. If anything happens, I'm going to get a hold of that person by email, by social media, by cell phone. There has to be a connection there. It can't just be a phantom owner. Then the boat washes up on Cove 2, it spills oil and gas all over eelgrass beds, and just, tracking that wreck on the outside of Cove 2 and other things, other situations that we've had is just a nightmare. And we don't know who it is. We can't salvage it. We can't touch it until we get that person, because as Dave has explained, once you touch that boat, then it's your responsibility. So yeah, all right, I'll shut up.
Well, and when it's on private property, it's difficult for somebody like Sheila to be able to deal with it also, as she has mentioned before. And the one thing, just so the liveaboards who are with us tonight understand, when this boat was towed out of the harbor and ended up on the beach in the Cod, I was, quote unquote, was told by Sheila that since it's out of the harbor, it's out of our realm as members of SHAB. It's not inside the harbor anymore. I felt a little slighted by that. And she also mentioned that we would not be using this particular boat owner as an example, which kind of angered me also, because there are some penalties in place already. He could have been banned from using the boat ramp for a certain amount of time. He can be banned from using the town pier. He can be banned from using the anchorage. And none of these penalties were issued in any way. And I'm not quite sure why, but getting back to the good person or the bad person, what we need to come up with is how do you vet that out, and how do you vet these people without being discriminating?
Absolutely.
It's easy enough to say, hey, this guy's a bad apple, I can tell right off the bat. So you have a suggestion there, Mr. Frederick?
Yeah, I do. It's really hard, like you say, to vet these people in a fair way. You can't say that just because you have a boat that looks like a wreck right now that you're eventually going to be a problem. There can't be some I don't like your paint job kind of thing.
Mhm.
Really, the only way, I think, is if you have to show proof of insurance, that your insurance company will salvage the boat, or you put up some kind of reasonable amount of money as a bond. Those are, other than that, how else could you do it? If you want to if you want to have your boat on Nantucket, and liveaboard or not, liveaboards, I think, probably have a better reputation as far as boats going up on the beach. The biggest problem I see is unattended boats. I'm a marine mechanic and I work on a lot of boats out here, and I'll see boats that get put in the spring, and then the owners, they don't touch them all year. Like maybe use them once, and the batteries go dead. We get 2 inches of rain, the things get swamped. They go up on the beach, they spill fuel, you know? And I don't like the idea of the government telling me I got to get insurance. I really don't. I'm not that kind of guy. But it's the only thing that makes sense with our commons here, you know? You can't let one bad apple screw up this good thing for all of us,
Yes,
you know?
yes. And we don't want to see that happen either.
Right.
Can I make a statement about what you said, Andy? The harbor master's jurisdiction by state statute is out to 3 miles. So Go-To is still within 3 miles. So just to
Right.
clear that up, she does have jurisdiction, or the harbor master has jurisdiction out to 3 miles.
Well, let me clarify that, Dave. Maybe you misunderstood. She didn't say she didn't have jurisdiction. She said we, as SHAB, did not have jurisdiction once that boat left the harbor. We really shouldn't be focusing on that since it left
Well,
the
then-
harbor.
You know, based on that, if somebody's scalloping off a Tuckanuck, we don't have any jurisdiction. And that's baloney. That's total baloney.
Mr. Brace.
Where is it written down that SHAB's jurisdiction stops at Brant Point or at the NB buoy? That's
Okay.
just foolish.
Our jurisdiction, and I know this from covering the board all the way back to the Nantucket Beacon and all the way through the Nantucket Independent. The town's jurisdiction mimics the state's jurisdiction 3 miles out from the shore.
Thank you.
So whenever the commercial scallopers find a charge of scallops out in the Court of the Bay, and something happens, SHAB has a say in that. And when we were talking about the guys coming over here from the vineyard going after the conch, we had a say in that. And when we changed the regulations about that, we had a say in that. So Sheila can't say that. It doesn't make sense to me because she needs our help to do this. And she's the one that said that she had some things she wanted to tweak about this. So we can talk about the difference between Pop-Tarts and Twinkies if we want. We're an advisory board. We're not going to do anything but recommend. So don't be fooled. Anyway.
Okay. All right.
Also, this doesn't really have a lot to do with Shellfish, you know. And if you're the Shellfish Advisory Board, we're actually talking about liveaboard. It's a whole different issue, but I'm glad we're talking.
Bill, we're the Harbor and Shellfish Advisory Board. So
Oh, harbor and okay, all right,
all things
So
shellfish.
the jurisdiction is all encompassing.
okay.
Sorry.
Mooring fields, moorings, how they're handled, it's all within our realm. But just so you guys get a better perspective of why I became so passionate over this, I travel the beaches of Kotu year-round, and when I came upon this wreck, really it was just a speck on the horizon coming from the Galls area, and by the time I was about 2 miles from it is when I started seeing the debris that I had to dodge with my truck. There was everything from the fiberglass shower to the holding tank to the kitchen sink and the countertops. This was spread for 2 miles. Refrigerator, stove, hot water heaters, everything the guts of this boat spilled out and spread along the beach for at least 2 miles. It was really, my heart sunk. I was saddened that somebody in our community could allow this to happen. And then to actually pull up on the bulk of the craft and see the engines there underwater and the hull smashed up, the upper deck was 100 yards away from the hulk of the boat itself. It was a big, ugly scene, and looking at it from out in the water didn't look so bad. But when you're driving along the beach where everything landed, it was very, very disheartening. Pieces of plywood with screws and nails sticking out of them, and cables and hoses and you name it. The holding tank is still up there on the beach, but and it took a lot of legwork to get people to try to maneuver. And it was on Nantucket Conservation Foundation property. They didn't want to hire a salvage company or hire a lawyer to work with the owner of the boat. They kind of played it out. The owner of the boat did go out and pick up a decent amount of debris. I spent a day out there and had 900 pounds in the back of my truck when I weighed in at the dump. But and they ended up, the Conservation Foundation ended up deploying a front end loader, and they cut up the rest of the hull of the boat, and they hauled the engines and transmissions out, and they cleared it out of there. But it shouldn't have had to have been them doing it. And this is just the reason for my passion on this. Don't want it to be a backlash to responsible liveaboards at all. So this is why we have you here. And I do want to mention also, quite some time ago, we brought this up, not too long after the incident happened last November. But I was talking with J.C. Johnson, our Shellfish constable, recently. He gave me a copy of some liveaboard regulations for Newport Beach, which I would suggest we look at also. They have a nice set of rules and regulations, along with Port of Port of Ana Cortez. Anyhow, JC was using these as examples, as Mr. Bossy had sent in his. These two are a bit more lengthy, but they have some decent character to them that seem to make sense.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
CJ is trying to get in on this. I don't know
All right.
if
I
yourself.
haven't seen him yet.
Yeah.
I just say on that one boat is that's more of the character of the person. I mean, I think a lot of people saw it ending up exactly the way it did. And I think calling in regulations from other places, this is Nantucket, it's a special place, different than these other places. I think it's more on the character of the people. There's a couple that we all know who they are. And when I started living aboard 2 years ago, there was a harbor posse, and it was just a group of boaters that lived aboard that would go and talk with the troublemakers or the new people that didn't much about it. And as far as the Airbnbs, I have one near me. And through that storm the other day, they don't necessarily understand that being on water is not land, and running the generator all night long. That's just a pet peeve of mine, but it's where is the responsibility, and what something does happen to these people while on the boat, who's responsible for that? Against bring in regulations everywhere else, and I understand it's governments have to regulate, but I think it's more on the character of people, and perhaps the liveaboard community talk with these people, and just tuning them up to how it should be. Because I hear about the harbor, I've been doing this a long time. I gave a boat away. It went up on the beach. I got a friend. We got it up the beach as quickly as possible. And that should be how it is, but I was taught different. That one boat, that is bad character. That's all I got for the moment.
Well, and CJ, this is something that we as a board talked about much earlier in the beginning of our discussions on this, was how do we maybe implement a neighborhood watch program with the liveaboard community to help us vet out the character of a liveaboard that you feel could be compromising your privilege as a liveaboard. And I certainly you know, I agree with you 100% on adding regulations. We can add all the regulations we want. There's still going to be a bad apple. And so I really don't want to go that way either. We do have regulations though. And if they're not doing us any good, then all I suggest is looking at what other towns do. So maybe we can get a better handle on how our regulations are written and followed through with.
But if the regulations aren't working now, putting more regulations in
Right.
isn't going to work anymore.
Right. Well, I'm thinking more of a regulation that has a loophole that really isn't a regulation at all. I'm thinking of, and you know, we have some in place that aren't being used. Like I mentioned earlier, this fella scuttled his boat. He could have been penalized by not using the boat ramp. That would have kept him from scalloping for a couple of months because he was trailering his scallop boat every day. But there were no penalties at that time. Mr. Franzuto.
Yeah, to that point, like we said earlier, Steve Lawrence is with us. Good to see you, Steve. The other thing is that after the Miss China, I told, you know, we've gone over this. There were a lot of regulations put in place to tighten up that situation. But I think what the first part of Dave Bossy's application, I think, is the most important. You know, who's responsible? Talking about the insurance, talking about who's going to live on board, contact information, those types of things. Let me ask you, the liveaboards, do you guys now keep fill out a form to register as a liveaboard? Do you do that now?
I think the only thing we do is at the town thing through the permitting. I'm not sure what I'm signing, but it's mostly parking sticker.
Park, if you want a parking sticker, you have to. You know.
I'm sorry.
If you want a parking sticker, you know, if you want a parking sticker to park in the town lot.
Right. So you fill out a form for that. But do you fill out
that's
any boat contact information other than your mooring permit?
No, I don't think so.
So I think that rather than writing a bunch more regulations, that we tighten up the registration of you guys being able to live aboard and have good contact information and that sort of thing. I mean, maybe that's the way to go. And as the chairman said, also, you guys, we're not out there. You know, I'm not out there every day like I used to be, and we're not out there. So if you are noticing something that doesn't seem right, then you need to let somebody know so we can do a preemptive strike before the thing does go up on the beach. But I mean, the other question I have, and I'll shut up again, is what problems, if any, are you having out there now, you know, just being able to live out there? Is everything seem to be okay, or you're being denied things, or what? How is it working now?
My world's good. Everything's good on my boat. You know,
Steve,
I work
you
as a
have to
mechanic.
unmute.
Yeah. Oh, I think I did. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, Bill. Steve is trying to talk and he's muted.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
There you go.
There we go. Yeah, no, I don't have any problems out here. We seem to get everything that we need.
All right, so that's good. And I would just take that one step further and say, you guys are obviously the responsible group. So you need to maybe, you know, help us with this, which is why we invited you to do this. Now that I have all your emails, I'm gonna I'm gonna forward, if it's all right with the board, I'm gonna forward Dave Boss's application. And we're obviously gonna have another couple meetings about this, but I think you ought to take a look at this application and mark it up and see what we're missing, or is what, what we're doing. Some of the things that are, there's some things in there that talk about size of boats and stuff. Back to the power thing, you can have a sailboat that doesn't have any power. Back to the registration thing, you can have boats that aren't registered for one reason or another. Sailboats, for instance, don't have to be registered. They don't have an engine. So, but if it's all right with the board, what does the board think about me sending that, or having Dave send it? Or Dave doesn't have their emails, I do. But sending that application around.
No, I think it's fine.
As long as you, I'm sorry, Dave, as long as you liveaboards understand and then can explain to the other people who weren't here that this is just us trying to fix some things. And the
Right, this is
application,
us, that's exactly.
the application is an idea. It's not something that's happened that's going to be inflicted on people yet, because
Exactly.
we're just trying to work through this, and you guys look at it and you talk about it and you tell the other people that are living aboard, hey, this is what they're thinking about. Nothing's happened yet, but can you give us some feedback? It's just so you guys all know
Make it
that.
better.
Sorry, Dave.
Yeah, right. That's what I'd like to say is to take it and tear it apart. Tell us what's wrong with it. Real, if you may say it's great, but I doubt it. So tell us what's wrong with it, because we're just trying to get something that works for everybody and that helps us. I mean, it's the one bad apple, but if we know who the bad apple is, and if we can get word that the bad apple's going rotten beforehand, it helps everybody a lot. That's all. And then if we have contact information, we can track them down. Then we can get to them, even if it's an Airbnb. I mean, we can get hold of the owner.
Oh,
That's what a lot of
I'd
that
like to
is.
speak to Airbnbs, if I could.
Yes, Bill?
Yeah. So when people first started Airbnb in their boats, about it really started about 5 or 7 years ago. It really kind of irked me. I was like, for all the reasons you guys have talked about, it's like, these people, they're not boaters. So you got these landlubbers out here in the water. It's a safety considerations and all that. And also it kind of irked me because they're making money off of something I didn't think of. But after I've seen 5 or 7 years of this happening, I got to realize that if you're Airbnb in your boat, you're going out there every other day and you're changing the sheets and you're making sure the batteries are charged and you're calling the pump out boat and you're checking the lines while you're out there. So the Airbnb boats get tended a lot more often. They're way better than the rich guy who gets his contender put in the water in May, uses it once and gets it pulled out in October. Meanwhile, the batteries are out there going dead and the bilge pumps don't work. We get a storm and the thing flips over. So I've gone from disliking the Airbnb boats to liking them.
Well,
Could I inject something?
just a
Having
second,
said
Bill. I mean,
they can't sublet that mooring. It's against the regulation that if the owner is, other than the owner is on that mooring.
Well, no, I'm talking about.
I don't
people that-
know, I didn't know
Airbnb-
this was going on.
are you, Bill, are you witnessing the actual owner of the boat coming out to do the changeover, the sheets and all of that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I mean, because on land, I live around a lot of rental houses that you never see the owner. I mean, year round, you never see the owner. It's a caretaker, it's a housekeeper. So,
Well, when you Airbnb your boat, you can't get a cleaning lady to come out here.
Yeah.
So the owners are coming, they're tending their boats.
yeah, well, I'm surprised at the concierge services that are available out there though today. You can have wine delivered to your boat, so I would imagine a housekeeper could be brought out. But at least there's some closer attention paid by the owner on the harbor than there is on land.
Right.
But I'd like to quickly focus on with Steve here also. Steve, Bill, CJ, how do you feel about, if you have a neighbor in your community, we'll call it out there, and you happen to notice, gee, every time he's out on the deck, I see a Coke bottle float by. I see ketchup packets and plastic utensils floating by. I mean, I'm not one who likes to, if my neighbor's making noise, I just hope he quiets down at some point. I don't like calling people out on what they're doing, but if they're, littering, just blatantly littering the environment, I mean, how do you feel about, calling in to the harbor master's office? Hey, there's some activity here that, could jeopardize my privilege here. And it's coming.
I've never seen
action.
I've never seen it.
Okay.
I
If I may,
haven't seen it either, but I think if I did, I'd have no problem either
Okay.
going to the people and talking to them or getting in touch with the harbor master.
Yeah. Okay.
None.
I mean, if you saw it, I would hope that, for your own sakes, for the harbor's sake, that I'm going by what I was finding on the beach from Christian's wreck, and
Right.
and I probably picked up 150 ketchup packets.
Yeah.
but to see something floating by somebody's boat, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's from their boat. A lot of things get blown over. And just back for a moment to Bill, the Airbnb, do you ever really see him check his pennant? Because I watch and he does changeovers. We're talking about the same guy. I never see him check his pennant.
Never see him check what?
His pennant.
Well, at least
It's
he's
more
out
than
there a
one.
little bit, which is more than can be said for a
He's
long
out there.
At least he's out there once every couple of days.
There's one out near me, and he's pretty much on top of it. He does the changeovers. I mean, he stays on top of that, making sure he's got plenty of power. He's doing everything that I could see possibly right.
The pump outs.
Everything. There is no complaint from the guy that I see, and he's been out here for a while. And the other thing, if I may, is
Alex has a lot of guests.
Can I ask how big are these boats that are being sublet?
what would you say that boat is?
50
Well,
feet.
Alex, 50 feet.
Yeah, that boat that's near me's probably got to be around 40 plus.
No, it's 50 feet. Alex's boat.
Is
Yeah,
it?
50.
Is it? Yeah, which is
And
fine.
Blue Wave is 32.
Yeah,
Is it?
Blue Wave's like 32. The one next
And
to
if
me.
you go on Airbnb, you can see all of these boats.
Right.
No kidding.
Right.
Wow. Of course you can. Wow. Huh.
But the other thing too, if I may, is I make a living out of the harbor. I have been for 40 years. So
Well
if
aware.
I see
Yeah.
somebody doing something that I don't like, believe me, I will be the first.
Okay.
Yep.
I mean, it's not glamorous, but I think that's the way we need to react for the whole thing to work right.
Mhm.
So, not to get off subject, but you see, that person in Shimo who wanted to put a 300-foot dock out, and enough people came together, and they've withdrawn their application. So, we need to voice our concerns,
Right.
or don't complain at all.
Mhm.
So, but Steve, you came in late, but I think you probably got the gist of this. That
Yes, I did. Yeah, I
were-
do. Yep.
What inspired us here was
Yeah.
that boat that was
Yeah.
abandoned last year. So
And it's funny because, not funny, but I remember talking with that person before it happened and suggested a few things for him to do, and found that he just totally ignored it. And then that was the day that it was done. It
Wow.
went down and it just sat.
Yeah.
So, and
Yeah.
I watched this one over at Monomoy. I see it every day because I dive every day at low tide, and I see it out there. It's too bad that it's, you know.
Are you talking about Emmett's boat?
No, it wasn't Emmett's boat. I'm talking about what was the last name? The two brothers lived on it. The three brothers. It's over here in between the piers. It was a 34-foot sailboat.
I thought that
sank
was a
one time.
37 cal.
Is it 30? I thought it was 34, but was it Sean? Yeah. And he just totally ignored it.
Is
And
that a
this is the
current
problem.
issue?
What's that?
Is that a current issue this summer?
No. I mean, the wreck is still there.
On the bottom in Monomoy.
It's on the bottom. It's marked off, and it sits there, and you see it at low tide, and it's right. I'm surprised that the people that live along that area haven't said much about it because it's a beautiful beach. You know?
There's the one out in Quays that's been there for several years now.
Yeah.
And Sheila used it as an example that the homeowners were the landowners were very patient that it sits there. They realized that the gentleman that let it end up there is working with some rehabilitation issues. We all know who he is. I wonder to myself why his closest family member hasn't stepped in and just simply cleaned it off of there.
Right.
I would do that for my son, but no matter what condition he was in, I think I'd go out there and take my son's wreck off the beach if I happen to be in that situation. But
it seems that the people that weren't responsible, I mean, what was I gonna say? They're gone. They've kind of moved on. They've kind of ruined a good thing, and they know they can't come back. So I think Sheila's pretty much stayed on top of that.
good.
With these people. So, and we've talked about that. We've seen them kind of get weeded out because it makes the rest of us all look bad.
Yes.
I mean,
Yeah.
we all know that. And I think right now it seems to be good. I think pretty much most of them are all gone.
Wow. That's good to hear.
Yeah, I agree. I think that the liveaboard situation has just gradually been getting better. 25 years ago, when I first started coming here, there was a lot of semi-derelict boats and a lot of sketchy characters living out here. And I don't know why it's gotten better and better, but I think it really has.
Yeah.
There's
I think
still a
part
couple.
of the problem.
Well, I think,
With-
again, like I said, I think because Sheila has stayed on top of that with these people and said, hey, this ain't happening.
Yeah.
And we've seen it took a little bit, but they're gone.
So maybe, I'll give Sheila the benefit of the doubt that Christian kind of slipped through the cracks, maybe. I'm not sure. I mean, I do know there was Dwayne Duggan he brought in a very large boat 2 years ago.
Yes.
Sheila was very diligent on him getting that out of the harbor. He had all intentions of staying on that big wall out there in the center of the channel. And she got him to bring that thing. I saw it in Hyannis a few weeks later. And so
Sheila did an incredible job there. She did an incredible job.
Yes,
She
because
did.
he was difficult to deal with. It took her. She had to go to the select board with that also. So and we supported her also with her mission on that, and because that could have been a disaster in itself.
Yeah. Well, I heard that when they took it out of here, he basically abandoned it over in Hyannis and ended up on the jetties.
No kidding.
So that's what I'm saying. We've gotten rid of those people that just aren't responsible.
Okay. All right.
And another thing, those people were thinking that was a free place to live. And I think a lot of the high rents and everything caused some of this liveaboard issues because they think a free place and then they're done, just let them go.
Right. Well, with that one boat, I remember when he first came out, he ran aground. Well, actually, the anchors, broke away. So here's a person, I think they got into something way over their head. They didn't know what they were getting into. And then that's when Sheila let him hook up to that the big ball out there. And then he figured he was just going to stay there.
Yeah.
And which wasn't a good idea.
Since we're in a workshop and even though we are being recorded, there's already been some names mentioned out here. So I just want to do some clarification. Knowing a good part of the story, you guys mentioned Emmett, and Emmett's boat was actually, his scallop boat was used to tow this hulk out into the Cod of the Bay, and he ended up sinking that scallop boat at the dock that next morning because I believe he split the transom in it, trying to tow too heavy of a boat or something like that. And Emmett's dad, served with us for one term. I was elected the same year he was 5 years ago now. And, I was concerned because I know Ken fairly well. I also know that Ken paid for Christian's boat to be towed here from the vineyard. And this was news. This was news straight from Emmett. And I'm only going to bring this up because you guys had mentioned Emmett. Is he still is he a liveaboard still?
Last time I saw him, I only saw him once this summer, and he is living, I think, out at his parents' house.
All right.
Yeah, I
He's
haven't
not
seen him
living
on
on
the water this summer.
The boat of his is.
The boat is on the mooring, but he's not living on it.
He's got a boat.
Is it being monitored at all?
No, not that I can tell. I haven't seen anybody on it all year. Or by the
Not that I can
creeks.
tell either.
Yeah.
So that's the next one. That's the next one that's going to go up on the beach. Is Emmett's blue sailboat.
All right.
But the question is, like, what can we do about it right now? What do we do about the fact that we know that it's just untended and going to go up on the beach?
Well, I would like to hope that enough push on Sheila can get something done with that. I'd like to hope that, hey, we notice your boat is, it's been neglected. It's make a move with it, or face some consequences of sorts. This is where we
Well,
Yeah.
the father's a lawyer,
yeah,
and he gets him out of trouble quite a bit.
yeah.
He does. He does.
All right. So making it more of a sticky situation for Sheila also.
So Andy,
Yes,
But
Peter.
Mr. Chairman, I wanted to say to everybody that's at this meeting is that what we're working on now is possible revisions to the regulations, not necessarily adding regulations, but revisions to what exists.
Mhm.
And we're working on that so that next season we have things in place so that we revise, so that this season, whatever happens, but that next season we have those things in place. Is that correct, Mr. Chairman?
Yes. Yes, it is.
What, did the board agree that I could send Dave Bossie's application out to the liveaboards?
Please do, Mr. Franzulli.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
And Peter will certainly assist you with email addresses and whatnot, I'm sure. Yes, Peter?
Yes.
Thank you.
Well,
That sailboat that Emmett's not using, is that the one he had in the marina over the winter?
Yes.
Yeah. Yes, it is.
and it had to have insurance.
All right.
Yeah, and I don't think he didn't stay on it this winter either.
No.
I had my boat in there, but I didn't stay on it this winter. I ended up staying at a house because they were supposed to do some construction on the boat basin, which kind of fell through. So
I'd like to encourage you all, if you're noticing a boat like that, we're talking about Emmett's boat, if you're noticing it being neglected and are concerned about its future, voice your opinion to Sheila. Please voice your opinion to us, voice it to Sheila. We're we're your go-between. You come to us and we want to respond. We want to react. We'd like to be proactive versus reactive, and keep these situations from spiraling out of control.
Well, if I see Emmett again, I will mention it to him. To tell him, say, hey, listen, you got to get out there and start checking that boat.
He needs to hear it from Sheila.
Yep, that too. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. And
Mr. Chairman, do you want to have a follow-up meeting after these guys get a chance to look at that application and think about what more we can do to help?
Certainly. We need to have a meeting with Sheila present. Have she's already mentioned how she feels about the Airbnb. She wants to do something to curb that from happening. She feels that whoever is on that boat at the time needs to know how to maneuver the boat, needs to know the mechanisms of the boat, and she feels that these renters, every house that's rented has a caretaker, and people call the caretaker to flick a circuit breaker. So
I think the application process would help with some of that. Let me ask the liverboards too. Between now and our next meeting, or if we have another workshop, are there other folks that you think would want to at least be interested in participating with us? Or
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, there's a
how
couple that weren't able to join today.
Right.
Liverboards.
Okay. Well, whatever the chairman wants to do, if he wants to, you want to have a regular meeting and then have another workshop at the end of September? Maybe then we can get Sheila.
yes, I think our next meeting should be a regular meeting because there are some other topics that we need to talk about.
Okay.
Sheila comes up first on the agenda, so we can continue liverboard discussion at our next meeting for sure, especially if she's in attendance. So it'll be on the top of our agenda, and
Well, I don't want to tie these guys up for
no.
a regular meeting.
Well, they can cut out after, if we keep that at the top of our agenda, I'll even take it out of order if we need to, and handle it all while because the harbor master report comes first, I believe, and so we would cover it all under her time frame, and she usually likes to cut out when she can also. So we would certainly deal with this first, and the other agenda items would come after.
All right. Peter, what's the next meeting date?
September 1.
September 1.
Yep. And then the 15th after that.
Which September 1 is still, a busy time in the harbor. Who knows what's going to come up for Sheila last minute? You never know. But she did reiterate to me that this is something she would like to, cross off of the to-do list. Get to the bottom of this, make some revisions if we need to, and move forward.
I do have something else of substance that I'd like to talk about if this is the place to do it. It relates to the harbor, and it kind of relates to liveaboards. There's quite a few liveaboards that don't have their own moorings, and they rent seasonal moorings, and they're a little bit on the fringe of what you would call a liveaboard. But like the Captain of Halcyon, Young America, Snow Goose, there's other boats that are liveaboards that don't really fall under the liveaboard category. So 4 years ago, there was a storm. Sea Legend was hooked to a mooring, and it drug through the mooring field, and it caused a lot of trouble. And then 3 years ago, there was another storm, and Mason's Candy, a 55-foot like burger type thing, drug up onto the flats, and it damaged his running gear, and it cost a bunch of money to get him off. Well, Tim Rainmos's insurance rates went through the roof. So starting last year, whenever there's a named storm, Nantucket Moorings shuts down the mooring field. Now, when you shut down a mooring field, it's all fine and dandy if there's room in the boat basin. But if there's no room in the boat basin, like if the storm happened tomorrow and Nantucket Mooring shut down the mooring field, it's going to be chaos out here. There's going to be no place for people to take their boats. You're going to have people with no mooring to be on. They're going to be throwing storm anchors in Pest House Channel and stuff. It's going to be mayhem. Now, Nantucket Harbor, I don't know if it's kind of a harbor of safety or a harbor of refuge, I guess they call it.
Safe harbor.
But
It's
Safe
not.
I don't really know how the whole mooring permitting thing works. I know that they're ultimately owned by the Army Corps of Engineers, who leases them to the town, and the town
That's
leases
true.
a chunk of them to Nantucket Moorings, and the rest of them to private people.
That's not
That's
true.
the way I understand it.
All right, the way it is that
How's it work?
Nantucket Moorings owns the ground tackle and holds the permit with the Corps of Engineers. However, when they tried to do that in 1996, the town applied for the permit. In most communities, the rental moorings are permitted only with the Corps. When I talk, we used to have 6 rental mooring companies, okay? They were, and after time, they were all consolidated under Nantucket Moorings. So when I contacted the Corps about making it legal for us to have rental moorings, because up until the no-name storm and Hurricane Bob, the rental moorings were illegal. The Corps of Engineers recommended to me to put the permit in the name of the town. And the reason that's become important is because then now Nantucket Moorings has to pay the town $300 and some thousand for the contract. So we're making money on that. We hold the permit, and Nantucket Moorings owns the ground tackle and has to carry the insurance. And that contract's renewed every 3 years. So
Well, suppose I was a real rich guy, and
I thought
I
you were.
got the contract with the town to do the rental mooring business,
Yeah.
right? But I decided that since I'm a billionaire, I'd rather see the harbor empty, and I could just say, "There you go. I got the concession. I'm paying the town the $300,000. Hell, I'll pay them $500,000."
no,
You know, isn't there some expectation of service?
the
One at a
permit
time.
requires him to provide 125 rental moorings.
But how about if it blows?
I'm sorry?
How about if there's a named storm? Does he still have to provide those moorings?
Well, I just wrote that down, and I'm going to find out with the Corps if
Yeah.
he can legally shut that down. Nantucket is
Yeah,
not a
because it
harbor-
could make a
harbor
big
ref-
problem. It could make a big problem.
Yeah, it could. But the good news is he's required to have insurance, and there's a very stringent inspection program, and the town does make money, which goes into the Waterways Improvement Fund, which builds things and fixes things on the water. But him shutting down for a named storm, I got to find out about that.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Dave, can you clarify, did you just say that Nantucket is a harbor of
No,
refuge?
it's not. It's not.
Not.
No. We went through this great legal battle with the Miss China, and it's not a harbor of refuge.
And I think that there's the perception, Dave, that it is, because whenever we get a blow, then we get the fishing boats coming in that
Right.
don't want to steam all the way back to New Bedford or where they're from. So they tie up at the town pier or wherever they do. People have that perception. So it's
Yes.
Well,
good.
you can't deny somebody when the wind's starting to blow or whatever, you can't deny somebody to come in here and seek, seek shelter. But, I mean, I've gotten people, when you have a named storm, what you do is you go around everybody and you tell everybody what's happening with the weather. And my recommendation has always been, there are a heck of a lot safer places to be in a blow than Nantucket Harbor. And what our recommendation always was, go where you feel the most comfortable. If your home port is Newport, go to Newport. If your home port is, someplace else, go there, because you're more familiar with it and it's safer than Nantucket in a blow. But him telling everybody that they have to get off his rental moorings, I'm not so sure about that. But
Well, that's not quite how he explained it, I don't think. He's just closing up whatever ones are open. Is that correct, Mr. Frederick?
No, that's incorrect. He kicks people off. Like I paid him because last year I had 2 boats and I needed a mooring, so I paid for a year-long mooring. And come September, we had a blow. He's like, Bill, you got to get off the mooring. I'm like, I paid the whole year. He said, no, my insurance company said I got to kick people off when it blows.
I've taken his rental moorings and put big stuff on 2 of them, on 2 of those 1,000-pounders, bridled them up and put big stuff during a blow on them.
Well, he won't let you do that right now.
I don't know that legally he can do that, but I'm sure his insurance company told him to do that.
For sure. Yeah.
I hate when I get, sometimes it's hard for me to not voice my opinion. I apologize, but it's just sometimes the truth has to be said.
Yes.
I apologize.
Well, you've
That's
got the
why we have
knowledge
you here, Dave.
You get the knowledge.
Well, it's really nice to see you all, Steve, CJ, Bill.
I'm glad to see you all too. Mr. Chairman, your idea right now is to have these guys check back in on September 1, or should they wait until the workshop on September 15th?
I think, if Sheila's going to be around on the 1st, and if these guys want to hear what Sheila has to say, then they need to clue in. If they want to be, if Sheila has to cut out 2 hours before the meeting as she did today, maybe the best thing I could do was let Peter know, and Peter can send out messages, hey, Sheila won't be there.
If you just let me know, I have all their phone numbers and all of their emails, so I can tell them if for some reason the 1st of September isn't going to work for Sheila. I can notify them. I certainly can do that.
Well, Dave, why don't you send me their emails and I'll add them to our master agenda email list so that you can definitely interpret what we're going to do at a given meeting to those guys, but at least they'll get the agenda every time.
Okay. Sure.
I like that.
Yeah,
I'll do that.
That sounds good.
Anything else, board members?
Not at the moment. I think Andy, that maybe September 1st will be a situation where if Sheila shows up, we're going to update her on what we talked about, what the points are, and I'll make an extra effort to get the minutes done quicker so that we can have them and have sort of an update, and then maybe we tell Sheila we're going to have another workshop and we want you there, and we're going to continue on these points, and I'm sure she'll have stuff to say, but.
Well, she actually did ask me if she could be, if you could forward some notes to her. I don't know if you can rough draft minutes or just give a short overview of this and get it off to her. Certainly doesn't need it right away, but certainly, in advance of our next meeting would be handy. I don't want to put too many demands on you, Peter, but you're the
I'll
best.
do my level best to not be consumed by procrastination and get going on it tomorrow.
Thanks, Peter. Thank you. Appreciate that. Anybody else? Anything else to add before we close out here?
No, I'm good.
Okay, thank you so much, Steve, for joining in.
Thank
Really
you.
appreciate it. Good input.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Yeah,
All right,
thanks,
thanks.
thanks, Elko.
us.
Thanks, CJ.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
All right. I hope you're all relieved, and if you had any butterfly feelings ahead of time, that it's gone away. So
I'll have to
Loves
say
new meetings.
I did, and I feel good.
okay,
I feel
good.
now.
Yeah.
All right, good.
Awesome.
All right.
Thanks.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion. We got a second to adjourn. All in favor?
You got to do it
All
by
right.
roll call.
Roll call vote.
Motion to adjourn's been made by Mr. Franzuto, seconded by Mr. Bossy. Do we have an aye from Mr. Brace?
Aye.
Mr. Bossy,
All right.
Mr. Sidlowski,
Aye.
Mr. Franzuto,
Aye.
Mr. Lowell votes aye. We're all in favor of adjourning. Thanks for your time, guys. Have a good evening. See you in a couple.
All right.
If not sooner, I hope.
Enjoy this beautiful night.
Yes,
Awesome.
yes.
All right.
Thank
All
you,
right.
Peter.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks for getting this all together on Zoom, Peter.
No worries.
All right,
See y'all later.
all right.